Hello and welcome in this video in which you're going to learn about the Dutch word order from absolute beginners to advanced beginners and maybe even a little bit beyond. So let's start by taking a look at the following sentence. You can see it written there. Tomorrow, think I that I to the Netherlands will go the problem to be able to solve, while I the shopping do. Sounds wrong, right? And you're correct. In English, this is the completely wrong, but this is actually the right Dutch word order. And the sentence, which is correct in Dutch, is: Morgen denk ik dat ik naar Nederland zal gaan om het probleem op te kunnen lossen, terwijl ik de boodschappen doe. Well, it's kind of a weird sentence because, you're not going to go to another country while shopping. But this is the correct word order, and by the end of this video you will understand exactly why this word order is like it is in Dutch. So we're going to start with basic sentences in this video, how to construct basic sentences, how to use inversion, like with questions and others. What happens to the Dutch word order? What happens to the Dutch word order with modal verbs? What happens with the past, the negative, subclauses, the reflexive verbs? Om te, it's a special one in Dutch, and separable verbs. That's an even more special one. Alright, so let's start by using a very simple sentence. Scroll down here a little. Ik werk. How do you translate that? Well, I work. First you have your subject, so the person that does the action in the sentence. That's ik. And then the verb, the conjugated verb here, to work. Ik werk. Simple, right? Same as in English. And throughout the video, I'll highlight a little bit, highlight a lot of the things English speakers or people who know a little bit of English struggle most with in the Dutch word order. And one of the first things people really struggle with is the questions. In English, you translate do I work, you use the do. However, this does not exist in Dutch. There's a verb, doen, to do, but you would only use it to say the verb to do. For example, I do my homework. But not in sentences. So how do you make a question? Werk ik? Do I work? So that's the first hard part. So whenever you're saying a question, forget about the do, just say the verb first and then the subject second. And this structure is called inversion. In Dutch there are many ways to use inversion, and the most important one is the one you use with the questions. So werk ik? Do I work? Let's look at another one. Ik werk morgen. I work tomorrow. That's subject, verb, time. Subject ik, verb werk, time tomorrow. Well, this sounds really simple. How do you put this in a question, however? Well, as you know in English, you start with do you work tomorrow? Oh, sorry, that's a little bit wrong here. Do you work tomorrow? Do I work tomorrow? I made a little mistake here. Do I work tomorrow? Werk ik morgen? So, werk ik morgen? Do I work tomorrow? Again, you see here first the verb, then the subject, then time. And when you're adding a place, usually you would add first time and then place in a normal sentence. Ik werk morgen in Nederland. I work in the Netherlands tomorrow. Or I work tomorrow in the Netherlands. It's not that important, time and place. They can rather easily switch one between another. I think it's the same in English, so subject, verb, time, place, or subject, verb, place, time. That's okay. But what happens when you ask a question? Well, of course, inversion kicks in. Werk ik morgen in Nederland? Do I work tomorrow in the Netherlands? And again, you see here the inversion verb, subject. That's important, time and place. However, why did I add the time and the place here in this video? Time and place, when you're starting your sentence with them, something really, really strange will happen. And that's the second thing English speakers struggle a lot with, and that's the inversion with time and place. So, in English you say, tomorrow I work, right? Time, subject, verb. But in Dutch, oh, no. First time, that's the same, and then verb and subject go into the inversion. So, morgen werk ik. You get this little inversion. And many students ask, well, can I actually morgen ik werk? Can't you say it? I mean, it's easier. And I unfortunately have to say, no, sorry, it's wrong. You have to use an inversion after time. Same so for place. In Nederland werk ik. In the Netherlands, I work in English. And again, inversion. You have your place and then your verb and then your subject. And what happens when you're using both time and place? Well, you can put it at the beginning. You can just put one at the beginning of the sentence. So, morgen werk ik in Nederland. Tomorrow I work in the Netherlands. So you can't add two, just like tomorrow in the Netherlands I work. No. So that's morgen werk ik in Nederland. Time, verb, subject, place. You can also put the place in the beginning. In Nederland werk ik morgen. So then you would have the place instead of the time. Very hard. So remember the inversion with questions. And with time and place, you can also do this. And also with other words, you might see, for example, with that person, I work. And then you would also have the inversion. So usually when you have something in front of the verb that is not a subject, then you have to use inversion. For other words like of course, natuurlijk, we'll also use this strange construction. All right, good. Let's go to the modal verbs now. What's strange with the modal verbs? Well, let's take a look. I have to work. Ik moet werken. Sounds easy, right? Subject, verb 1, verb 2, and verb 2 being the infinitive. Verb 1 being the modal verb. And modal verbs are verbs like to be able to have to must, to need to, things, verbs like those are modal verbs. So it's a verb using another verb at the end, more or less. But the most important thing here about the Dutch word order is the following. If you're putting something extra in the sentence, ik moet werken, what happens then? For example, I have to work tomorrow. It becomes ik moet morgen werken. So you have subject, verb 1, time, and verb 2. Whoa, I'm sure your mind is completely blown right now. You have to put the verb at the end, the second verb? Well, yes. And then the students insist because they see I'm doubting a little. And then they insist again and again. Do I really have to put this verb at the end? Well, no, actually no. But I will tell you this because of something that will come later in the video. So, second verb goes at the end. But what happens if you put this time in the beginning of the sentence? What happens then? How does it change? Tomorrow I have to work. Morgen moet ik werken. So you again have this inversion here. Moet ik, and that's wrong again. I have to put the subject here. There you go. That's better. So time, verb 1, subject, verb 2. Morgen, that's the time, and then the inversion, of course. The first verb goes here, then your subject, moet ik werken. And, well, the second verb goes at the end, as usual. How about in questions? Moet ik morgen werken? Do I have to work tomorrow? Well, inversion, of course. Your conjugated verb always goes first. The second verb, like the infinitive or other forms of the verb, will go at the end. Subject, that's the inversion of the question, time, and verb 2. And that's the second verb here, all right? And what happens when you're using both time and place in this sentence? Well, for example, I have to work tomorrow in the Netherlands. In English, you see, well, tomorrow in the Netherlands, well, you put it at the end of the sentence. But no, in Dutch, you put it in between. So, ik moet morgen in Nederland werken. Subject, ik, verb 1, moet. Time, morgen, place, in Nederland, verb 2, werken. So, very, very important. Now, let's see something to complicate matters a little bit more. Ik moet werken morgen. I have to work tomorrow. Subject, ik, verb 1, moet, verb 2, werken. Morgen time, wait, but Alain, that's me, Alain. You just said that at the end of the sentence, you have to put the second verb at the end of the sentence. This is very, very, very important. And yeah, you're right. This with time and place, you can actually put it at the end of the sentence, and with prepositions too. But there's a big but here. If you're using an object, you can't. And what is an object? Well, an object is the object of the action of the sentence. Let's take an example here. I have to do the shopping. And the boodschappen, that's the shopping, like the regular shopping, like your food or the things you need regularly. The boodschappen doen, that's to do the regular shopping. So, ik moet de boodschappen doen. And here, if you're using this object, you cannot put it at the end of the sentence. It is forbidden, it's wrong. And because of this, I told you before to put everything before the second verb. So the second verb goes at the end to avoid confusion. It requires a lot of discipline because in English I have to do the shopping as right, and the shopping goes at the end. But no, it's wrong in Dutch. So that is why I prefer that my students put everything in front of the infinitive, because it's also correct, and they will get used to this object being put before the second verb. And there are also some other parts of the sentence that can be put before, and that have to be put before the second verb. That is why I insist on putting everything before the second verb. For example, in the following sentence, ik moet morgen de boodschappen doen. I have to do the shopping tomorrow. So, good. As a disciplined student, you say subject, verb 1, time, object, and verb 2. Verb 2 goes at the end. And you may wonder, well, can I switch places like the time and the object? Can I say, ik moet de boodschappen morgen doen? Well, actually, yes, that's not that important. Same with place and objects and time. You can rather easily switch places. There are no ground rules here. There are no things you can't do. But what is very important is to put this infinitive at the end, the second verb at the end. That was a little water to encourage me to keep my voice. All right. So you put there verb 2. Are there other parts of verbs that can be at the end or that have to be at the end? Well, yes. That's an excellent question. And then we're going to go to the past tense. Ik heb gewerkt. Let's show the whole past tense here. Ik heb gewerkt means I've worked. And here, again, just as in English, you have subject, ik or I, verb 1, heb or v, short for have, and gewerkt, that's verb 2. And that's, well, it's a form of the verb. And does it belong to the end? Well, yes. Same so for the infinitive as with the modal verbs. So, ik heb gisteren gewerkt. I've worked yesterday. Subject, verb 1, time, verb 2. And exactly like with the modal verbs, you can put this yesterday at the end. Ik heb gewerkt gisteren. But not the objects. So it's better to be really disciplined and use everything before the second verb. For example, ik heb de boodschappen gedaan. I've done the shopping. So subject, verb 1, object, verb 2. Verb 2 goes at the end. And in a longer sentence, ik heb gisteren in Nederland de boodschappen gedaan. I've done the shopping in the Netherlands yesterday. And here you see that the done is really early in the sentence, in the English sentence. But gedaan is completely at the end. So that's subject, verb 1, time, place, object. These three you can switch places. And verb 2 at the end. And you can also put time and place here behind verb 2. But as I said, as a beginner, it's better to be disciplined. And now let's go to something that will or might blow your mind, the negative. The negative, there's another video where I explain more about the negative and in more details, but here we're going to focus on the Dutch word order. So this video, you will find some links in the description below this video to see how you can learn more about the negative. So if you're more interested in need more examples, then you'll see it there. But in short and very, very briefly, niet is used for not, and geen is used in front of nouns, in front of most nouns. So I don't have the shopping. Geen will be in front of a noun. But that's in short. If you want more, check the video in the description. So let's see. Ik werk niet. I don't work. Haha. Same with the question, if you remember. English uses do. Do I work? Does he work? Does something work? Well, yeah, then you use the do. And I don't work uses this not just behind, and this may be very, very, very confusing because in Dutch the not is at the end. So you're going to put niet at the end. So it's subject, verb, not. All right? And this niet is usually at the end. Same so for questions. Werk je niet? You don't work, or don't you work? You can also say that in English. Verb, subject, so that's the inversion we've already seen, and not at the end. If the not is about a noun, ik heb geen boodschappen, then you always put it before the noun. I don't have the shopping. So that's subject, verb, not, and object. But for that, remember, you can go to the video. Well, not goes at the end. All right, interesting. But you said the second verb also needs to go to it at the end. So who gets the priority in Dutch? Who's the strongest here to go at the end? Well, let's take the following example. Ik moet niet werken. I don't have to work. So you're putting the second verb, so verb 2, at the end. So you have subject, verb 1, not verb 2. All right? So the second verb wins over the niet. And there are some other words that also win against this niet and their fight for the place to go to at the end. For example, ik heb de boodschappen niet gedaan. I haven't done the shopping. So that's the same so far in the past tense. So your second verb, your gedaan, goes at the end. Subject, verb 1, object, not verb 2. So verb 2 takes precedence over the not, and things with prepositions also go at the end, go behind this not. Again, check the video for more. Let's quickly recap all the things that were taught here up till now in the video. So, simple sentence, ik werk, I work, subject verb. Sentences that become questions, do I work? We don't use this do, we just use the inversion. We use this inversion as well with time and place. Morgen werk ik, tomorrow I work. And with infinitives, after a modal verb, or the second part of the verb, we put them at the end. So ik moet de boodschappen doen, doen is at the end. Ik heb de boodschappen gedaan, gedaan is at the end. And the niet also goes at the end, except when there's a verb here, then you use this second verb at the end. That was it for a quick recap. And now you will be ready for something even more mind-blowing, the subclauses in Dutch. Subclauses cause nightmares for Dutch students. So I hope you're psychologically ready to start with the subclauses. And let's start with a really easy one, just to get you in without too much mind-blowing going on. So, ik denk dat ik werk. I think I work. Well, you have a dot here. Yes, this dot is required, but this is not that important in this video here. But what is very important here is subject 1, verb 1, just like in English. You have the dat or the conjunction, it's called, and subject 2, verb 2. And this is exactly like English. And you will be wondering, well, Alain, you said it's a nightmare, this subclause. What's so nightmarish about it? It's normal. Well, let's take a look at the following example. Ik denk dat ik morgen werk. I think I work tomorrow. Well, can you put this morgen at the end, Alain? Yes and no. When you have a conjunction like dat, you're going to put the verb at the end. Oh, well, that's like the infinitives and the modal verbs and the past tense. Well, yes and no. You put it at the end, but this is the conjugated verb. Oh, do I have to put all the verbs at the end here with conjunctions? Yes. So, and this is not easy to incorporate into your language. So let's take a few more examples. This thing where the verb goes at the end is called the catapult. We've seen the normal word order, so that's subject, verb, and the rest. The inversion, which is verb, subject, and the rest. And then the catapult is the next one, which comes to your attention as a way of constructing the Dutch sentences. Let's take another example. Ik doe de boodschappen omdat ik morgen werk. I do the shopping, okay, do the boodschappen, normal, because I work tomorrow. And work is at the end. You can actually put this morgen behind the werken, but I would really not advise to do it. You would need to make a little break between the two, and I would really not do it. So that's subject 1, verb 1, object, like normal, and conjunction, subject 2, time, verb, and this is a catapult, so it throws the verb at the end. Let's take another example with place. Ik doe de boodschappen terwijl ik in Nederland werk. I do the shopping. I hope you're not discouraged by all this text here. Ik doe de boodschappen terwijl ik in Nederland werk. I do the shopping while I work in the Netherlands. And in English, of course, you put in the Netherlands behind to work. But in Dutch you would use in Nederland before the verb, the conjugated verb in the subclause. So the subclause is, you have the main clause, the main action. Ik doe de boodschappen, that's the main part of your sentence. And the subclause is the little part of the sentence that in Dutch always starts with a conjunction. In English, it doesn't always start with a conjunction. For example, I think I work. There you don't hear the that, or you don't hear any conjunction. In Dutch, you always need a conjunction. So that's one signal to tell you that you have to put the verb at the end. Good. But now let's add the modal verbs to this sentence. I have to do the shopping because I'll work tomorrow. Aha. You have two modal verbs here. Moeten, or moet here, the conjugated modal verb, and zal. What effect does it have on the sentence? Ik moet de boodschappen doen. I have to do the shopping. This we've seen earlier. Verb at the end, second verb at the end. Moet doen, so verb 1, object, verb 2. Has to happen like this. Conjunction, omdat ik morgen zal werken. And here, do not forget to put both verbs here at the end. This is something that is easily forgotten. All your verbs in the subclause belong at the end. Good. Now, let's put this sentence in a question. Moet ik de boodschappen doen omdat ik morgen zal werken? Do I have to do the shopping because I'll work tomorrow? Here, first inversion, no do, verb 1, moet, subject 1, ik, de boodschappen, object, and verb 2, at the end. Yes, at the end. I have to do the shopping. In English it's not the same. Omdat ik morgen zal werken. And here again you put both verbs at the end. When I'm telling this, may sound rather logical, but when you're in a conversation, that's why you need to practice a lot on these things. And I would advise to write many sentences with these conjunctions. About which there's another video. You will find a link in with more conjunctions and also a little bit on the word order. So, past tense. Ik heb de boodschappen gedaan omdat ik gisteren gewerkt heb. Again, as we've seen, I've done the shopping. Past tense. Second verb goes at the end. Because I've worked yesterday. Haha. You put the rest of the sentence here and, well, first the subject, very important, then the rest, and then the two verbs. Gewerkt heb, because with the catapult, all verbs go at the end. Good. Some people put the heb before the gewerkt, but here it's not that important which place it has. Well, it's a matter of taste, so you can choose here with the past tense, but not with the modal verbs. Zal werken. Always put your modal verb first and then your infinitive. Good. So if you're disciplined, you always put your conjugated verb first and then the infinitive. Let's recap a little. Ik hoop dat het werkt. I hope it works. And here again, hopen is with dat. So you use dat, subject 1, verb 1, conjunction, the dat, as subject 2 and verb 2. It's normal. But now let's add the negative. How does it go with the negative? Well, you can either put the negative in the first sentence or in the subclause. In the main clause or the subclause. Ik hoop dat het niet werkt. Here you put it in the subclause. So I hope it doesn't work. And here the niet is before the werkt. A bit like in English, but there's no do here. So subject 1, verb 1, conjunction, subject 2, not, and then the verb 2. Alright? So the verb takes precedence over the niet. Of course, you can also put the niet in the first sentence. Ik hoop niet dat het werkt. I don't hope it works. So then you just add the niet here. Good. Let's recap a little bit. Ik denk dat het morgen zal werken. I think it will work tomorrow. Verbs at the end, zal werken. And in a question, denk je dat het morgen zal werken? So the question does not affect the subclause. So the subclause is the same, dat het morgen zal werken, but you use this inversion here at the beginning. Do you think it will work tomorrow? So don't forget to put the inversion in the main clause. And now we're going to complicate things a lot. So we're nearly at the end here about the subclauses. It's just these two more. When you're starting a sentence with the conjunction, for example, because, I've been told in English it's not really nice to start a sentence with because, but in Dutch you can do it. So I'm sorry if you feel offended for me starting a sentence with because, but let's look at the Dutch here. It's just a translation. Omdat ik morgen werk, doe ik de boodschappen. Okay, because I work tomorrow, I do the shopping, and this is a double problem, because first of all you have the omdat and the verb goes at the end. It's already unnatural for an English speaker, for an English speaker to put this verb at the end. And here, what happens here in the second sentence, this is the an old friend, the inversion. It's not a catapult with the verb at the end, werk, but here it's the inversion, doe ik de boodschappen. Yeah, and that's why I usually don't advise to start with the conjunction at first. If you're ready, if you feel ready, feel free to do so, but you have to think about this inversion in the second sentence. What happens when you add a second verb to the sentence? Omdat ik morgen zal werken. Again, verbs at the end here, and conjugated verb first, because I will work tomorrow. Moet ik de boodschappen doen? And this is well, here you use inversion, moet ik, simple inversion, and doen goes at the end because it's the second verb of this sentence. Alright, let's read it again. Omdat ik morgen zal werken, moet ik de boodschappen doen. So yeah, let's see the word order here. First the conjunction, your subject, time or rest, and then verb 1, verb 2, so a conjugated verb, infinitive, or second part of the verb. Moet ik, inversion, so verb, conjugated verb of the main clause, and subject, rest, and the second part of the verb. Good. Let's go to another chapter about the Dutch word order. And again, there's a video about reflexive verbs in the description, so you can learn more about reflexive verb. In short, some verbs use ik was me, I wash myself. In Dutch, this is compulsory if you want to talk about, you have to wash something, so you have to add here myself. Well, it's not compulsory, but it's better to use something. And what does this do to the word order? Well, actually not much. This is a part I put in the video here because the previous one was really hard. It's mostly just like in English. I wash myself, ik was me. Subject, verb, reflexive part. Ik was me morgen, I wash myself tomorrow. So this reflexive part will be just behind the conjugated verb, just like in English. I wash myself tomorrow. So subject, verb, reflexive part, and then time. In questions, some students hesitate to put this reflexive part behind the verb. That's maybe the only part that's a little bit tricky. And they think, was me ik? Well, no. First, verb, subject, and then this reflexive part. So the subject and the verb are always closely tied to another in the main clause, in the main sentence, not in the sub-sentence as you've seen. So you have to put the me at the end. Do I wash myself? So verb, subject, reflexive part. And with a second verb, ik moet me morgen wassen. Then again you put the me just behind the conjugated verb. I have to wash myself tomorrow. But again, this to wash, second part of the verb, verb 2, so you put it at the end. And in a subclause, you might again be tempted to put me just with the conjugated verb. So I think I'll wash myself tomorrow. Wash myself. Myself is just behind wash, but in Dutch, unfortunately, in subclauses, as you know now, you put the conjugated verb at the end of the subclause. And what does it mean for our word order? Ik denk dat ik me morgen was. So me will be just behind this, the subject. So subject, verb, a conjunction, subject to reflexive part, time, verb 2. So it's more that second verb that's really annoying English learners. Good, fairly easy. Just put the me behind the verb, and in questions it doesn't just follow the was, and in subclauses it's behind the subject. Let's go to a tricky part in the word order. Ik ga naar Nederland om te werken. This is with om te. Om te, you can translate it as in order to, but it's not always translated literally like that. And there's a video about it. You can find a link in the description to know more about this translation. But let's take a look at the word order here. Ik ga naar Nederland om te werken. I go to the Netherlands in order to, or to work. So same as normal, subject, verb, place, to infinitive. Well, this sounds fairly easy, Alain. Why are you saying to me? Well, let's go to the question. Ga ik naar Nederland om te werken? Do I go to the Netherlands to work? Well, this is again same verb, subject, place, om te infinitive. And this is piece of cake. Okay, you have the inversion here. Do I go? All right. It's a little tricky, but it's rather easy. Yes. Let's go to another example. Ik zal naar Nederland gaan om te werken. I will go to the Netherlands to work. Okay, that's with the future tense here. Second verb goes at the end of the main clause, and om te werken is the subclause, so I leave it behind. I leave it just like it is. Yeah, and that's an important part here. This om te werken also always use an infinitive. So you cannot use the past here in order to. You can't use a past there. You can use modal verbs, but we'll see one just in a bit here. But you cannot use the past. So what's so hard about it? Alain, come on, tell me. I'm wasting my time here. Well, it's coming here. Ik ga naar Nederland om de boodschappen te doen. Okay, I go to the Netherlands. So far so good. Subject, verb, place. Om. Okay, om de boodschappen te doen. Huh. Why is this te there? Well, this is exactly the problem. Te is split up, and you put the rest in between. Okay, so if your subclause has more than just an infinitive, here above we've seen om te werken, that's just work. To work is the subclause. It's just an infinitive, and that's it. And yes, here you will have to do the you will have to split it up. Same so for reflexive verbs. Ik ga naar Nederland om me te wassen. I hope you don't have to go to the Netherlands to wash yourself, but okay. I go to the Netherlands to wash myself. Me is in between om and te. Whew. All right. And time and place? Yes, you also put it there. Ik ga naar Nederland om me morgen te wassen. In order to wash myself tomorrow. Ha, okay. So the infinitive is the only thing you can put behind the te, and the rest is between the and the te. And if you have two infinitives, well, then you put them both at the end. Ik ga naar Nederland om me te kunnen wassen. Me, rest, kunnen, and wassen is at the end. So here you see infinitives can be at the end. Good. Very important. Om, rest, te, infinitive. Good. And now let's take a look at the really hard part of the Dutch language, and it's also the last part of this video. But let's go for separable verbs. What are separable verbs? Well, it's rather easy. They just split up in some cases, and as you have guessed, there's a video in the description to learn more about separable verbs. Let's take an example. Ik kan het probleem oplossen. I can solve the problem. And oplossen is a separable verb. Here it is not separated because it's in the infinitive. And as you know, separable verbs, even in the infinitive, go at the end. Verbs go at the end. Verbs go at the end. You've heard it already 10 times or more in this video. However, it sometimes splits up. Ik los het probleem op. And here you have this separable particle, I call it. I'm sure there's a difficult grammar term to say what kind of part this is. But the most important part is that this is actually a part of the verb. And because it's a part of the verb, it goes at the end. Just like all parts, second parts of the verb. Ik los het probleem op. In questions, same. Los ik het probleem op. Second part goes at the end. Just like with the past tense and the modal verbs, you put it at the end. Do I solve the problem? Past tense. Ik heb het probleem opgelost. I've solved the problem. Ha. Well, it's the part of the verb. It goes at the end. It's like, you know, ik heb het probleem opgelost. And if the problem is an object here, so you can't put it at the end. And you see that it's a little bit weird. You see the ge in between. It's a little strange. But you will find more about that on the links in the video. Good. I've solved the problem. Subject, verb, object, verb 2. And a little tricky part is when you put this verb in the subclause. Ik denk dat ik het probleem oplos. Then it's going to attach again one to another. So that's a little bit tricky. I think I solved the problem. Again, verb at the end of the subclause, the catapult. And a little additional problem is that separable verbs are pasted together in subclauses. One last point: if you combine the separable verb with the om te, what happens then? Ik ga naar Nederland om het probleem op te lossen. I go to the Netherlands to solve the problem, and here op is rest. It is not an infinitive. Lossen is the infinitive of the separable verb, and you put it in between. So you know, om, rest, te, and then infinitive. And op is part of the rest, so you put it there. Alright, so we've covered a lot in this video. We're going to take a look back at a difficult sentence from the first thing I've said in this video. If you remember, tomorrow, think I that I to the Netherlands will go to, and you know, the problem to be able to solve, while I the shopping do, literally with the Dutch word order. So let's take some analysis here. Let's apply what we've learned. Morgen denk ik. All right, this is a main clause, or let's take the English one. Tomorrow I think. Okay, you start with time. What happens when you start with time? Well, you get inversion. So morgen denk ik. And then the dat. In Dutch, you have to use this dat. In English, you can skip it. So that's why the dot is there. Okay. Let's take a look at this first subclause here. Or here in English. Like, I'll go to the Netherlands. Haha. Subclause. Verb goes at the end, right? Yes. Dat ik naar Nederland zal gaan. Because I will go. Two verbs. Right? And both verbs in a subclause go at the end. So that's why morgen denk ik dat ik naar Nederland zal gaan. Good. So far so good. We got an inversion here. And in the subclause the verbs go at the end. And now we have this om te construction. And with the om te construction, you use the infinitives behind the te. Be able to solve the problem. Okay, so solve, that's the infinitive, will be after and the problem will be before, in between the om and the te. Om het probleem op te kunnen lossen. And here, oplossen, separable verb. Op is not an infinitive, so we put it in between om and te. And for the record, this particle will always be at the end of in between the om and the te. You always have to put the object, but okay. So om het probleem op te kunnen lossen, kunnen, infinitive, lossen, infinitive. Alright, good. While I do the shopping, we've got another subclause, while I do the shopping, and if it's a subclause, then you put the verb at the end, terwijl ik de boodschappen doe. So let's quickly recap about this difficult sentence. Tomorrow, inversion, morgen denk ik. That means there's a subclause here, and then subclauses, the verbs, go at the end. Dat ik naar Nederland zal gaan. First subject, rest, and then the verbs. Another subclause, but a special one, because om te has the infinitives behind te, so kunnen lossen, and the rest, het probleem op, in between the om and the te, and op, this is not an infinitive, it's a separable verb, so we put it in between om and te too. And then we have terwijl, that's another subclause, and there the verb is also at the end. Good. Feel free to check the videos in the description, the many videos in the description. And if you have any question about word order, because this unfortunately was, well, it was an introduction, but we've covered many things, and we've covered the most difficult things for beginners. But of course there are some other rules. I mean, you can complicate on and on. I don't want to demotivate you, just to say this was just an introduction. But these are the things that are better if you get them very, very quickly in your learning, in your speaking, because they're really hard to when you're starting to learn Dutch and you start saying mistakes, these kind of mistakes, it's really hard to eliminate them after a few years or a few months. It is really, really hard to remove those mistakes from your speaking. All right, so again, if you have any question, feel free to write a sentence in the comments, and see you in another video.